Okay, hey there, folks. We're going to be coming back in just 1 minute with Serhat. I think what I really liked about these back-to-back sessions was that they're highly focused on the human element and how much we can learn and transform our organizations through culture. And I think Serhat's talk touches on that as well. I think on-call culture can be highly transformed with conversation and with the right culture and learning from failure and a lot of things. So we'll let him take it away at the top of the hour and bring him into the streams. Hey there.
Hey, sure.
Hey. So you, like me, are in the EU area, so it's morning for you. I got lucky with that. Thanks for joining us. And Serhat is an AWS hero as far as I know, because he's in my territory, so I see him all the time. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Serhat. And
my name is Serhat. It's great to be here, by the way, for a great cause. And I live in Turkey, so I'm in a great time zone right now, 11 p.m. I'm working for Atlassian. My focus is on Opsgenie for the last 4 years, even before the Atlassian acquisition. So I talk a lot of people about on-call and incident response over the last 2 years. Before that, I was working as a developer. I work with the various teams in Opsgenie, including a SRE team I took on call as well. And I like talking about it. And like you said, I'm an AWS Community Hero, and that means I talk a lot about AWS as well. I organize conferences too. I'm part of the Devopsdays global core team. So I help Devopsdays organizations as well. So that's all about me. Should we just start?
Yep. So without further ado, I'll let you take it from here. You sound like just the right person to talk about this. Let's make sure we got you on. Nope, not that.
So can you see my presentation? All right, looks like it's working, right? So again, I already introduced myself. Thanks for joining us here today. I know this is for a great cause. I want to start by thanking all the organizers. I know a lot of work went into this. And I just, without, I want to deep dive into the topic. So we don't really see each other right now. So I usually ask people if they like being on call or they hate being on call. And the usual answer is they don't really like it. Some of them really hate it. And I definitely get that, get this notion of not liking on call or even hating it. But from my experience, most of it because just companies don't put enough effort into making on-call healthier. It's just something that they don't really think about much. But it really affects people. It really is important, and there are some practical solutions that can make on-call much better for your people. And these practices will make a lot of change in your organizations that will help reduce stress and burnout for on-call teams. So, but before, let's analyze a bit more and see why, discussing on-call worth your precious time, it is important always, knowing the reason behind why. And I know a lot of people here today are familiar with what on-call is, but there are always people who are not really into this. So it is always worth mentioning. And not every example are this extreme, but I want to, grab your attention. So I'm going to give you 2 examples from 911. 911, the service, the emergency service that our lives depends on. It is a different number here in Turkey, but 911 is a global, well-known service, I guess. So they had an incident in 2014. So on a June morning in Washington, 911's IT projects and operations manager was alerted. So a man tried to reach out to 911, but he was only able to reach out by borrowing someone else's phone. So this only happened for one telecom provider. So no one responded to this failure, and the problem is solved only hours later without a response. So in 2018, emergency cell phone service faced even more serious incident. So the data center provider that these many telecom providers use to operate their services had an outage. And it brought down many wireless 911 calls for many major cell carriers over a day. So it is a big incident. It was a big incident. So all these incidents was related to IT, somehow software, and this clearly shows that even our lives can be dependent on software nowadays. And obviously, all stressful situations are not this stressful, but even today, even just sending a picture on Instagram means a lot to a lot of people. So companies will lose thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, depending on the scale. So it matters to your company. And the thing is, you can't really anticipate many of these problems. These are unknowns for many people, and you need people who can debug these problems and take actions on these problems, no matter what. So that means you need people on call. You need on-call people who can, respond to these problems on timely manner. So now we talk about why we need on-call, but the problem is most people who are on-call think that on-call sucks, right? And it can be because they can't go to the beach without taking their laptop, or they have to get up at 2 a.m. in the morning. And obviously, it's not fun, but there is also research that backs this up, right? So the researchers from the University of Hamburg work with 132 individuals from 13 organizations. And they collected daily surveys over a period of 4 days, during which they were required to be available during non-working hours, and 4 days during which they were not required to be available. So they also collected cortisol level samples, the body's main stress hormone, from 51 of them. And the results are showing us that on-call is not leisure time. And there are significant effects of on-call, of extended work availability on the daily start of day mood and cortisol awakening response. And this fact that on-call is not leisure time, even if you are not getting alerts, I think should help us acknowledging that we should put more importance on-call, because it really affects people's health. Again, even if there are no alerts. So we should put enough effort to keep our people healthy. And I think with the DevOps movement, we made a great progress. Before we only had a couple of ops people who are taking all these operational responsibilities and responding all these alerts. And it was catastrophic for them most of the time. And also we were really sending software deployment. We were really doing deployments as batch, but it really changed a lot in the last 10 years. And we started adopting CI/CD solutions, right? So definitely DevOps helped. We have a supporting survey at Atlassian about this. So 57% of teams report fewer bugs and outages by adopting CI/CD solutions. And we especially see these CI/CD pipelines as a must for companies doing microservices. And after you get big enough, if you have a lot of engineers, at some point to be able to keep up the pace, you have to consider moving to microservices. So in the last decades, as big companies see many benefits in breaking things into small parts and empowering teams, we started investigating more into, we started doing more microservices, but microservices are not easy, right? So they come with their own problems. So you have to have, operational maturity in many places to be able to run this reliably, this sort of architectures. So just building CI/CD pipelines and automating things weren't easy. So weren't enough. And so we took the idea of empowering teams one step further. And usually the big companies are, because they experienced these pains before, many other smaller companies, they usually lead this way. So so the notion of you build it, you run it, Dr. Ryan Volgas, CTO of Amazon, really changed our industry. So today, DevOps empowers both, developers to involve more in the ops part, taking responsibilities on production, and obviously to do ops folks do more coding. And as Opsgenie, I want to give you an example. As Opsgenie, when we were 15 people in engineering, when I just joined 4 years ago, so only 2 technical co-founders were taking on responsibilities. So once the pager load increased, once we had multiple teams, we have many services at some point, we have 40 people, and then we had problems scaling on call because, a lot of others were just going to these 2 people, and it didn't really scale well. So at that point, we started putting developers on call. Of course, not just put them. We had a transition, like learning period, but we started putting developers on call and paging them for their services, the services that they're responsible for, and it really helped us overcome many problems. So I want to just go over these problems one by one because I think these are very important. But I also know that my time is limited, so I will be a little bit fast. So first of all, so the first one I think is we have ever increasing demands, right? We have, our customers, our company are expecting us to be meet these demands on availability, performance, and security, with more complex systems, distributed systems, and the developers of these services are often the most qualified people to identify and resolve these problems quickly. So we really need people who are on the field, who know how to fix this problem faster. And the other one is being on call, helps this, we talk about silos between DevOps, and it really is, I think, the key to break down these silos, because if you put developers on call, they get the pages, they feel the pain from the first hand, and they learn from them, they implement better systems, and, minimize operational problems at the end. And the outcome is often better testing, documentation, instrumentation, monitoring, alerting, often better reliability, I can say. And the last benefit is, I think we sometimes overlook at this, but whenever we talk about some sort of transformation or even like talk about how to embrace DevOps culture within our company, we sometimes overlook at the management part, but usually this change has to start, almost all the time, has to start from the management. You have to get their approval. And, when management sees that the developers that originally hired to do some feature development are working on these operational problems, now they are able to see the effects of their, one day, their push for 1 day early release, like, because they just, needed to get that thing out 1 day earlier, but developers maybe sacrificed because of that. But now they are able to see the effect of these effect of these push on developers' times. So they are able to prioritize reliability work easily. But it used to be only small number of people in the ops team or on call, so it was their job, it was part of their duty. So it didn't really matter how many alerts they got, but they had to keep all this software up and running. But now it's not the case when developers are on call. So it helps management and engineering leaders to be able to see how important reliability is as well, and help them prioritize work related to reliability. So now let me share a personal story with you before we go into the key points. When I was working as part of a product team at Opsgenie just about 2 years ago. So I'm still a little bit nervous when I tell this story. But yeah, it was about 5 p.m. on Friday. So we worked on this feature for about 2 weeks. So, but we usually wait. If it's 5 p.m., we usually wait. One day we don't really push. We don't really need to push. But it is Friday, so we couldn't really wait until Monday. But it was a mistake, When I tell this story, some people just tweeted that, I may no deploy on Friday, advocate, whatever. Definitely, I'm not. I think you should deploy during the day, if possible. Just small changes are better usually, but this time it was a little bit big. We had some sort of migration, so we could have waited. The feature was about indexing our alerting data to Elasticsearch. And if you know Opsgenie, is an incident and on-call management solution. So when people log into Opsgenie, the first thing they see is the alerting page. So alerts are important, and the alerting page, is the most important page, I can say, in Opsgenie. So the alerts were coming from Elasticsearch, and we work on a migration plan. We did a lot of testing, then we shipped it. And everything was fine, after checking out production for more than 10 minutes, everything was fine until it wasn't. So after some time, when we were just about to leave the office, customer reports problem. So they asked our customer success team if something is wrong with the alerts page, because they were acknowledging alerts, but they are seeing they are not acknowledged, or they were closing, they still see the alert there. It is not the normal behavior. And the thing is, it was sometimes normal, but it was not sometimes, so it was kind of a mix. So it was really tricky for customers to be able to understand what is going on. And alerts page, again, the most visited page. So inconsistencies really matter there, even though the notification flow and the alert creation flow didn't really affect it. It is a big deal. So the team was able to replicate the issue. They decided to create an alert for the customer success team, decided to create an alert for the team responsible for alerts page. So they used our Slack integration. They were able to create an alert for the alerting team, like something like /Genie alert, alerts page show inconsistent states for some alerts. So alerting team got the page. They once they got the page, they were able to replicate the problem, and they look at the recent, changes on Jira, what we shipped, and they saw that we just shipped the feature related to Elasticsearch, so they know that it's related to our deployment. So they added me as a responder on the alert, so I get paged as well. And the feeling when you get a page after you just sent something, it is really it's really not good, right? So we started talking on Slack, and after spending some time trying to figure out what is wrong, we really couldn't figure out why this is happening. So it was really the only way for us was to bring in the incident response team so call for help, basically. So we go into this, ICC thing, incident command center, live chat, and we talk with people, try to figure out what is wrong. At the same time, we enter the status page entry to let our customers know that there's a problem with the alerts page. And we had this administrator option called for disabling a cluster on Elasticsearch. And even though we couldn't figure out what is causing, which part of the code was causing this problem, we disabled one of the clusters because we figured out like it would probably solve the problem because there are inconsistencies. But again, it was a risky move, but it stopped the bleeding, it stopped the problem. So we had at that point so before, by the way, when we stopped the cluster, we started getting alerts from CloudWatch. So thankfully, thank God, we didn't really have any problem with the remaining cluster. It just, had more load, so we was able to handle that. But we got some more alerts. We associated all these alerts under an incident. And after a lot of debugging, we find the bug. We weren't really considering the async nature of Elasticsearch. We were reading the data from DynamoDB and writing it to Elasticsearch, and there were some inconsistencies because there were writes to DynamoDB at the same time. So it was kind of we broke something about the how we write data to Elasticsearch. So we were simply reading an old version and writing writing it to Elasticsearch. So after some debugging, we realized that we had a problem we had a bug within the code, and we fixed it. We sent it, and in the meantime, we had about 2 hours of inconsistent state. So we still have inconsistencies. So we had this tool that we wrote for syncing data to Elasticsearch if something happens. So we run that. It is about 2 a.m. in the morning. Then we leave, and it's all over. So it is really stressful. It was really stressful. So we did learn a lot of things, though. And I grouped them under 4 key takeaways. So I will just be a little bit faster because time is going. So the first one is actionable alerts. So I define actionable alerts as alerts that are there for a reason. I mean, something must have happened, and alerts show you how to start investigating the issue and get some more help if you need it. So these are extremely important during on call to help people to reduce the stress, especially. So when we say actionable alerts, I have 3 things that I want to mention. So the first one is automatic alerting. So we try to catch most alerts before customer impact through automated monitoring. At this time, we couldn't really do it, but you have a lot of different tools, use different monitoring tools for that. So at that time, we couldn't really do it, right? But we were able to group alerts under incidents, so that's a good thing. But another thing that we did right was escalation paths. So if alerting team on call engineer couldn't respond to alert, we had a backup. So we could call her, Opsgenie could call the backup engineer automatically. The engineer on call was able to add me as a responder easily. So we were able to bring in the instant response team with just 1 click. So these are all positive sides of putting everything onto alerts. So the last one is one-click actions and guides. When we say guides as part of on-call, as part of alerts, usually the thing that comes to mind is runbooks, and they are really important because they help on-call engineers to in these stressful times. They give you the starting point. If you are not sure what to do, they give you a clue. So they are really important. The trick is to keep them up to date. So you really need to spend some time into reviewing these runbooks for every couple of weeks maybe. So also you could add one-click actions on alerts. Like you don't wanna you should try to automate as much as possible. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes it is. But it is really strong if your engineer doesn't have to change between tools and just get the right data within one view during these stressful situations. So the second one is training. Obviously, we know that training gives confidence. It helps you because practice is important. Practice. So because you experienced that before, it will be much easier, right? And onboarding is a great starting point. So we, after 3 months of working in the product, we start explaining basics to on-call engineers, and start give access them to these tools. And one of the things that I think most important for engineers is using shadowing. So shadowing is a practice that I did a poll about this, and if people knew about shadowing, they usually use it. So it's a great practice. So if before putting engineer on call alone, you put an engineer on call with an experienced on call engineer, so they get the alerts at the same time during business hours. They work on them together, so the new engineer gets some experience. So it really helps to reduce stress and make the new engineer get ready for on call. And another practice that we usually talk about in the context of chaos engineering is game days. So game days, you come together, you practice a instant response scenario with the team. If it would be, of course, better if you can rehearse it on production, but it's a process, so you can start small, definitely. And then what you should do, how you respond during the incidents, and maybe have fun at the same time, have some pizza with the team. So it really helps to have these kind of organizations and practice. So the third one is transparency, and transparency is of course important in every aspect of companies, for organizations, but on-call is definitely critical, and sometimes you forget about it. So first one is I want to mention as part of transparency is you should try to make these policies written and open to whole company. We even take this one step further. and make our incident response, incident management handbook available for everyone. So if you want to check it out, you can go to this link, Atlassian link. These documents should have information about the responsibilities, what you expect from on-call people, how to switch shifts temporarily, or even, flexibility of working from home after dealing with an incident at night, right? So specifying these policies help people know what they're expected and, what they're not expected, which is really important. And the other one is status page updates. And it is both, transparency should be both on both sides for both internal and external stakeholders. So you should communicate incidents with both internal and external stakeholders, including customer success team, because they are talking with customers, so they need to have information. So try to keep the flow between these, stakeholders, all stakeholders, open and transparent. So the last one is analyzing and continuously learning from each incident. This is the final one in my list, but there are a lot of great talks about this deep diving. This is just a small reminder compared to those talks. You should really watch those great talks we had in the all the talks, previous talks. The first one is you should try to collect operational data as much as possible, on-call changes, and so that you can figure out if someone is taking on more on-call time, so you can fix that. And the other one is you should try to write detailed documents on incidents, and try to be blameless, because it doesn't really help anyone. Obviously, it will hurt both your company and your employees. So, and the last thing I want to mention is compensation. So on call, we talk about on call is not being a leisure time. So you should remember that and give your employees something in return, a day off. In some cases, it has to be money. It has to be money in some countries. So you have to think about this. It's not part of the regular work. So we talked about these 4 titles: actionable alerts, training, the importance of transparency, analysis and learning, also collecting data and writing these blameless policies and reviews. So as I told you before, the on-call by definition is stressful and can lead to stress and burnout for people. So applying these, thinking more about these 4 practices, 4 points, will drive good results in making on-call happier and healthier for your organization. And we should remember, we should put our people first. And remember that the less stressful the on-call is, the healthier your teams are. So they can focus on what really matters and can enjoy work and bring the best out of themselves every day to work. So thank you very much for listening, for being here. This was my talk. I guess I'm on time, right?
Okay. Oh, that was really awesome, Serhat. Thank you so much. I have just a few questions from some of the folks. So what advice do you have for those that are feeling burnout? Many people, even liken, feelings of burnout from on-call to like PTSD almost. What kind of advice can you provide for those that are feeling that way?
So I think engineering managers or engineering leaders are really important here, because they have to keep the flow, communication flow, feedback flow open between engineers. For example, within our team, Opsgenie or broader Atlassian, if you have this sort of problems, they always encourage you to talk, and I'm sure there are always things that they can do. You can, for example, take a break from rotations, or try to figure out what is wrong. If you, especially like I mentioned, especially if you have data, like, for example, you are getting, maybe that's because you are getting a lot of alerts. Maybe there's, one service that is more problematic, or you don't have enough people in your rotation, or you can, you have some personal business, even like personal matters. You should communicate with managers. A manager should understand and should listen and try to help you. That is the only way I can think about. I mean, you have to talk. You have to talk with managers and communicate this. And teams should be understanding, right? It's all about like human. I mean, we can have personal business, we can have personal things going on.
Another thing I've often encountered is that many times you'll see on larger teams and bigger companies that you can do things like follow the sun, you can hand off failures, and you can kind of get through it. But on small teams, many times, after an incident, you have to get back to your daily work. What are the tips that you could provide for the smaller companies that need to manage an incident and then go straight through into, you know, an honest day's work?
So I think most of the problems with small teams are usually alert fatigue, like you have a lot of alerts. So what we do, since we were like 10 engineers, still we have, let's say, just working on Opsgenie, 80 engineers, and we still have every 3 weeks an alerting review meeting. So everyone on call participates in on call, which is all developers, and we come together and we express our problems. Even when we were 10 engineers, we were doing that. So you talk with the team, but there is, I think, if you have like just 5 engineers, you will probably be on call more, right? But if it works for your team, you can do weekly rotations. So you have, let's say, 3 weeks without on call. That also works. So that is one way. And also, if you have a lot of alerts, what you do is you talk with the team, you try to reduce the number. Maybe most of them are just for nothing, so that usually happens. If there are real alerts, you should probably focus on like how to make your systems more reliable. That's just another thing. But what I suggest is weekly rotations are also key in this case.
And if like my team doesn't practice these tips, if we're doing it all wrong, what are the first tips that you would suggest to getting started, to kind of transforming the way that the company manages alerts?
So I think I was before, just 2 years ago, I was thinking, how can you like make developers on call if you don't really have maturity, some sort of maturity within your organization. But then I realized the best solution, at least this is my opinion, but the best solution to fix these problems is to get developers on call as soon as possible. So it will fix a lot of problems within your organization. And the key is, maybe you talk with your managers, explain. I think the ops people in your organization need to understand, the developers need to be communicated the right way. But I really think the first thing that you should try to implement in your organization is to get developers, on call as soon as possible. I think it will trigger a lot of good stuff within your organization.
Because then they would take responsibility also for their own, code changes.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Serhat. This was a fantastic session. Thank you for joining us. Every session, like I say to all the people who have joined us, helps us, generate more donations for charity. This is it. This is the very last session. So this is your last opportunity to donate. Guy Pujani, the founder of SNCC, the organization that did the heavy lifting behind this event, will be matching every donation from now till the end of the event. So please do donate to this charity. Thank you so much for joining us, Serhat.
Thank you for having me.
And have a good day. All right.